jacket belonged to my son. Take it off before I call the police.
The boy froze under the streetlight. Navy and gold sleeves. Number 14 on the arm. Daniel's championship jacket. The one she'd buried in the back of her closet 6 months ago. Her grocery bag split open. Cans rolled across the pavement. The teenager bolted. Evelyn ran. Her coat flapped. Her knee screamed. She caught his sleeve at the church steps. The jacket twisted. Inside the lining, Daniel's name in faded Sharpie. And below it, a crude hand-stitched pocket she'd never seen before. Something crinkled inside. The boy's voice cracked.
He said you'd understand. He said if he died, you were the only one who'd listen.
Evelyn's throat closed. Her son had been dead for 6 months. How had he given this boy a message from the grave? Before we begin, if you could tap subscribe and like, it would mean so much to me. And if you don't mind, please leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from. May health and happiness find their way to you right where you are. All right then, let's begin today's story. Chapter 2. The Stitched Pocket. The boy's name was Marcus Reed. Pastor Hal poured coffee in the church office while Evelyn held the jacket like evidence. Marcus sat in the folding chair across from her. He was too thin. His hands shook around the warm mug. Pastor Hal stood by the door with her arms crossed. She ran the church shelter 3 nights a week. She'd seen plenty of scared kids. Evelyn turned the jacket inside out. The stitched pocket sat just below the name tag. Crude blue thread. Uneven loops. Daniel had never been good with his hands. "When did he give you this?" Evelyn asked. Marcus set down the mug. 3 months before he died. He came to the shelter every Tuesday. Brought sandwiches. Helped with homework. Evelyn's chest tightened. Daniel had volunteered at the shelter. She hadn't known. Pastor Hal spoke quietly. Daniel was good to our kids. Quiet about it. Evelyn slid her finger along the stitched seam. It opened. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Blue ink. Daniel's handwriting. A storage unit number. Unit 247 and a date. 2 days before he died. The room went silent except for the coffee pot clicking off. Marcus leaned forward. He said if anything happened to him, I should find you. He said you'd know what to do. Evelyn's hands went cold. Daniel had known something was wrong. He'd prepared for it. She looked at Pastor Hal. Did he seem scared? Pastor Hal's face softened. Not scared. Careful. Like he was tying up loose ends. Evelyn folded the paper and slipped it into her coat pocket. She stood. Her knees protested. She didn't care. Where's this storage place? Marcus asked. Route 9, past the old fairgrounds. Pastor Hal touched Evelyn's arm. You want me to come with you? Evelyn shook her head. I need to go home first. Figure out what happened to this jacket. She turned to Marcus. You stay here tonight. Pastor Hal will get you a bed. Marcus nodded slowly. He looked exhausted. Evelyn drove home through empty streets. The jacket sat on the passenger seat. She thought about Tuesday nights. Daniel always said he had errands. Sometimes he came home smelling like coffee and fried food. She'd thought he was meeting someone, maybe a woman. She'd never asked. Her driveway was dark. She unlocked the front door. The house smelled stale. She hadn't opened the windows in weeks. Daniel's room was at the end of the hall. She hadn't touched it since the funeral. But someone had. The closet door stood open. Empty hangers swayed. Daniel's boxes were gone. His dresser drawers gaped. Evelyn's pulse hammered. She pulled out her phone. Dialed her sister-in-law. Mary Jo answered on the 3rd ring. Evelyn, it's almost 10. Where are Daniel's things? Silence. Mary Jo, where are they? Mary Jo's voice went tight. I helped you clean up. Remember? You said you couldn't do it alone. Evelyn hadn't said that. Mary Jo had insisted. She'd shown up with boxes and garbage bags. She'd been relentless. What did you do with his jacket? I donated everything to the church thrift store. You said it was too painful to keep. Evelyn closed her eyes. She hadn't said that either. Did you look through his things first? Of course not. That would be disrespectful. Evelyn hung up. She sat on Daniel's bed. The mattress creaked. The storage unit number burned in her pocket. Daniel had hidden something, and someone had tried very hard to make sure she never found it. Chapter 3. The probate trap. That Tuesday morning, Evelyn sat in Victor Shaw's office. His law practice occupied the second floor above the bank. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, framed degrees that all said the same thing. Powerful. Victor smiled across the desk. We're almost done with probate. Just need your signature on a few final documents. Evelyn didn't pick up the pen. What happens to Daniel's storage unit? Victor's smile didn't move. Storage unit? Unit 247, Route 9 facility. Victor tapped his keyboard. I don't see any storage unit listed in the estate. Because he paid cash. Victor's fingers paused. Then it's not part of probate. If the rent lapses, they'll auction the contents. Evelyn leaned forward. When's the last payment due? I wouldn't know. You'd have to ask the facility. And Daniel's medical bills? The hospital said there's a discrepancy. Victor's jaw tightened. He slid a paper across the desk. This is the billing summary from the county hospital. Everything was handled through his insurance. Evelyn scanned the page. A surgery. Dates. Costs. But Daniel's accident had been a car crash. Blunt force trauma. Why had he needed surgery 2 days later? She looked up. What kind of surgery? I'm not a doctor, Evelyn. The hospital can explain. The hospital won't return my calls. Victor stood. I'll make a note to follow up. In the meantime, these documents need your signature by Friday. Otherwise, the estate stays in limbo. Evelyn stood slowly. What happens if I don't sign? Victor's voice went flat. Then probate drags on. Creditors start circling. Your daughter-in-law's finances get complicated. Is that what you want? Evelyn picked up her purse. I'll think about it. She left without signing. Outside, the wind cut through her coat. She walked 2 blocks to the diner. Karen sat in a booth by the window. Coffee already poured. Karen looked tired. Dark circles. Hair pulled back too tight. Evelyn slid into the seat. Victor says I need to sign by Friday. Karen's shoulders sagged. Good. We can finally move on. Did you know Daniel had a storage unit? Karen's face went blank. No. Did you know he volunteered at the shelter? Evelyn, please. Please what? Karen's voice dropped. Please stop digging. Daniel's gone. Probate is a nightmare. I have bills I can't pay. I just want this to be over. Evelyn pulled out the paper from the jacket. She unfolded it on the table. He left me this. Karen stared at the storage unit number. Her hand trembled. Where did you get that? From a homeless kid wearing Daniel's jacket. Karen's face crumbled. I didn't know about the jacket. Mary Jo handled the clothes. She said she'd take care of it. What aren't you telling me? Karen's eyes filled. Daniel was scared the last few weeks. He wouldn't say why. He kept checking the locks. He made me promise that if anything happened, I'd go to Detective Park. Not the sheriff. Park. Evelyn's pulse jumped. Why Detective Park? He said she was the only one who'd believe him. The waitress refilled their coffee. Neither of them drank. Karen wiped her eyes. There's something else. I got a letter yesterday from Daniel's insurance company. They're denying the claim. Why? They said the policy lapsed 2 weeks before he died. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Daniel never let a policy lapse. I know, but they have a cancellation form. With his signature. Can I see it? Karen pulled a folded envelope from her purse. Evelyn opened it. The cancellation form was dated 3 weeks before Daniel's death. The signature looked right, but the handwriting on the address line didn't match. Evelyn's hands went cold. Someone had forged this. She looked at Karen. We're going to that storage unit. Today. Karen's voice shook. What if there's something bad in there? Then we'll know the truth. They paid and left. Evelyn's car smelled like old coffee and receipts. The drive to Route 9 took 20 minutes. The storage facility sat behind a chain-link fence. Rows of orange metal doors. A small office with a flickering open sign. The manager was a woman in her 50s. Reading glasses on a chain, she looked up when they entered. Help you? Unit 247. Daniel Carter's unit. I'm his mother. The woman typed on an old desktop computer. Last payment was 3 months ago. Rent's overdue. We're scheduled to auction next week. Evelyn's heart sank. Can I pay now? You'll need proof you're next of kin. And a death certificate. I have both. Evelyn pulled the papers from her purse. The woman made copies. She handed Evelyn a key on a yellow plastic tag. Units in the back. Row E. They walked through the rows. The wind rattled the metal doors. Unit 247 was at the end. Evelyn's hands shook as she unlocked it. The door rolled up. Inside were 4 cardboard boxes, a filing cabinet, and a locked metal case. Karen stepped inside. She opened the first box. Papers. Receipts. Ledgers with handwritten entries. Evelyn opened the second box. Photos. Old team pictures. And a yearbook from 20 years ago. A name was circled in red ink. Ronald Briggs. Coach Briggs. Karen pulled out a folder. These are scholarship fund records. Evelyn looked over her shoulder. Donations, checks, names, and rows of numbers that didn't add up. Karen's voice went quiet. Someone's been stealing from the scholarship fund. Evelyn opened the filing cabinet. More ledgers, bank statements, and a printout from a DNA testing company. Her blood went cold. The name on the test was Marcus Reed. The match probability was 87%. A paternal half-sibling match. Karen read over her shoulder. Her hand went to her mouth. Oh my God. Evelyn's knees buckled. She sat on the concrete floor. Marcus wasn't just some random kid. He was family. Daniel had been protecting his half-brother. Chapter 4. The DNA bomb. Evelyn sat on the cold concrete. The DNA printout trembled in her hands. Marcus Reed. Paternal half-sibling. 87% match. Karen knelt beside her. Did you know? No. Evelyn's voice cracked. My husband never said anything. Maybe he didn't know either. Evelyn looked at the date on the test. 8 months ago. Daniel had known for 8 months, and he'd kept it quiet. Karen stood and opened the metal case. Inside was a USB drive wrapped in plastic, and a handwritten note on yellow legal paper. She read it aloud. If you're reading this, something happened. The USB has everything. Copies of checks. Recordings. Proof! Take it to Detective Lena Park. Not the sheriff. Park will know what to do. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. I love you, Mom. Evelyn's throat closed. She pressed her palm against her eyes. Daniel had known he was in danger, and he'd tried to protect her by staying silent. Karen's hand touched her shoulder. We need to call Detective Park. Not yet. Evelyn stood slowly. Her knees screamed. We need to talk to Marcus first. They locked the unit. The drive back to town was silent. Evelyn's mind raced. Her husband's affair. A teenage son no one knew about. Daniel discovering the truth. And then someone killed him for it. Pastor Hal's church sat on Maple Street. The shelter entrance was around back. Evelyn knocked. A volunteer opened the door. A college kid with kind eyes. Is Marcus here? He left about an hour ago. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Where? He didn't say. Just took his backpack and left. Evelyn pulled out her phone. No way to call him. She turned to Karen. Drive to the diner. He might be there. They drove fast. The diner parking lot was half full. Evelyn scanned the booths through the window. No Marcus. She went inside. The waitress looked up. You seen a teenage boy? Thin, dark hoodie? He was here about 20 minutes ago. Sat in the corner booth. Didn't order anything. Then some man came in and they talked. Evelyn's pulse jumped. What man? Didn't recognize him. Older guy. Suit. They left together. Karen grabbed Evelyn's arm. We need to find him. They drove through town. Past the high school. Past the grocery store. Nothing. Evelyn's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Hello? Mrs. Carter? A young voice. Scared. Marcus? I'm at the old stadium. Behind the bleachers. A man came to the shelter. He said if I didn't talk to him, he'd make sure I got arrested. He said I stole the jacket. Stay there. I'm coming. Evelyn hung up. Drive to the stadium. Karen's hands tightened on the wheel. The old high school stadium sat on the edge of town. Rusted bleachers. Cracked concrete. It hadn't been used in 5 years. They parked behind the concession stand. Evelyn got out. The wind howled through the empty field. Marcus? Over here? He stepped out from behind the bleachers. His face was pale. The varsity jacket hung loose on his thin frame. Evelyn walked toward him. Who was the man? He said his name was Victor Shaw. He said I was trespassing at the shelter. He said if I didn't leave town, he'd have me charged with theft. Evelyn's blood went cold. Victor Shaw was supposed to be handling probate, not threatening teenagers. Marcus's voice shook. He said the jacket belonged to the estate. He said I had no right to it. Karen stepped forward. What else did he say? Marcus looked at the ground. He said Daniel wasn't my brother. He said the DNA test was fake. He said if I told anyone, he'd make sure I ended up in jail. Evelyn pulled the DNA printout from her purse. She handed it to Marcus. This isn't fake. Marcus stared at the paper. His eyes filled. So it's real? Daniel really was my brother? Yes. Marcus's knees buckled. He sat on the cold bleacher step. Evelyn sat beside him. Karen stood watch. Daniel was protecting you, Evelyn said. That's why he hid the evidence. That's why he gave you the jacket. Marcus wiped his eyes. From what? From whoever killed him. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Final. Marcus looked up. You think he was murdered? Yes. Karen's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Her face went white. It's a text. From an unknown number. It says, "Stop asking questions, or the boy disappears." Evelyn stood. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. We're going to Detective Park. Right now. They drove to the police station, a small brick building on Main Street. Detective Lena Park's office was on the second floor. The receptionist waved them through. Detective Park looked up from her desk. She was in her 40s. Short black hair, sharp eyes. She recognized Evelyn. Mrs. Carter. What can I do for you? Evelyn placed the USB drive on the desk. My son left this. He said to bring it to you. Detective Park picked up the drive. What's on it? Proof of fraud. And maybe murder. Detective Park's expression didn't change. She plugged the drive into her computer. The screen filled with files. Spreadsheets. Audio recordings. Scanned checks. She opened the first audio file. Daniel's voice filled the room. This is Daniel Carter. Today's date is March 15th. I'm recording this because I think someone's going to try to stop me. I've been volunteering at the church shelter for 2 years. 6 months ago, a kid named Marcus Reed showed up. He's 17, homeless. And after talking to him, I realized he's my half-brother. My father had an affair 20 years ago. Marcus's mother died last year. He had nowhere to go. Detective Park leaned forward. Daniel's voice continued. While helping Marcus, I started noticing things. The scholarship fund donations at the high school didn't match the dispersals. Coach Briggs has been skimming money for years. And Victor Shaw's been helping him cover it up through fake probate filings and trust manipulations. I have copies of everything. Checks, ledgers, emails. If something happens to me, this drive is the proof. The recording ended. The room was silent. Detective Park closed the file. She looked at Evelyn. How long have you had this? I found it an hour ago. In Daniel's storage unit. And the boy? Marcus? Marcus raised his hand slightly. That's me. Detective Park studied him. Then she looked back at Evelyn. Coach Briggs is a local hero. Victor Shaw's been practicing law here for 30 years. If I move on this, it's going to blow up the whole town. Evelyn's voice was firm. Then let it blow up. Detective Park nodded slowly. I'll need statements from all of you. And I'll need to secure that storage unit before someone else tries to clean it out. Karen spoke quietly. Someone already threatened Marcus. And me? Detective Park's jaw tightened. Who? Victor Shaw. When? An hour ago. Detective Park stood. I'm going to make some calls. Don't go home tonight. Is there somewhere safe you can stay? Pastor Hal's face appeared in Evelyn's mind. The church. Good. Go there. I'll contact you tomorrow. They left the station. The sun was setting. Orange light bled across the horizon. Evelyn drove them back to the church. Pastor Hal answered the door. She took one look at their faces and ushered them inside. You're staying here tonight, all of you. She set up cots in the fellowship hall. Brought blankets. Made tea. Marcus sat on his cot. The Varsity Jacket lay beside him. He looked at Evelyn. Do you think Daniel knew that they'd kill him? Evelyn's throat tightened. I think he hoped he was wrong. Marcus nodded slowly. He was a good guy. Yes, he was. That night, Evelyn lay awake on the cot. The fellowship hall smelled like old hymnals and floor wax. She thought about Daniel, about the secrets he'd carried, about the brother he'd tried to save. She thought about her husband's affair. The pain of it was old now, buried under years of silence. But Marcus was real, and he was family. She closed her eyes. Tomorrow, the fight would start. But tonight, her son's brother was safe. That was enough. Chapter 5, The Break-In. Evelyn woke to the sound of Pastor Hal's voice in the hallway. She checked her phone. 6:47 a.m. Gray light filtered through the fellowship hall windows. Karen and Marcus were still asleep on their cots. Evelyn stood quietly. Her back ached. She walked to the hallway. Pastor Hal stood by the office door. She was on the phone. Her face was tight. "Yes, I understand. Thank you." She hung up. She looked at Evelyn. "That was the storage facility. Someone broke into Daniel's unit last night." "Cut the lock." "The manager's calling the police." Evelyn's stomach dropped. "Is anything missing?" "She doesn't know. She wouldn't go inside without an officer present." Evelyn pulled out her phone. She dialed Detective Park. It rang 4 times before she answered. "Mrs. Carter, I was about to call you. Someone broke into the storage unit." "I know. I'm on my way there now. Stay at the church. I'll come by this afternoon." "What if they come here?" "They won't. I've got a patrol car circling every hour." Detective Park hung up. Evelyn walked back to the fellowship hall. Karen was awake. She sat on the edge of her cot. "What's wrong?" "Someone hit the storage unit." Karen's face went pale. "Did they take the evidence?" "I don't know." Marcus stirred. He sat up. His hair stuck up in strange angles. "What's happening?" Evelyn told him. Marcus pulled on his shoes. The varsity jacket lay folded beside his backpack. "They're destroying everything, aren't they?" he said quietly. "Maybe. Or they're trying to scare us." Marcus's voice hardened. "It's working." Pastor Hal brought coffee and toast. They ate in silence. Evelyn's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Let it go, or everyone you love gets hurt." Her hands went cold. She showed Karen and Marcus. Marcus's jaw tightened. "They're serious." "I know." Pastor Hal looked over Evelyn's shoulder. She read the text. Her face didn't change. "You need to forward that to Detective Park." Evelyn did. Then she blocked the number. The morning dragged. They waited. Pastor Hal brought lunch. Soup and crackers. At 2 o'clock, Detective Park arrived. She sat down at the table in the church kitchen. Her face was grim. The storage unit was ransacked. Filing cabinet emptied. Boxes torn apart. But here's the interesting part. They didn't take the USB drive. Evelyn frowned. "Why not?" "Because you already took it." They were looking for the original documents. The paper trail. "But we've got copies of everything now." So they failed. Karen leaned forward. "What happens next?" "I've opened a formal investigation. I'm bringing in the state police. This is bigger than one town. How long will it take?" "Weeks, maybe months. These things don't move fast." Marcus's voice was flat. "So we just sit here and wait?" Detective Park looked at him. "You stay safe. You stay quiet. And you let me do my job. And if they come after us again, then you call 911. And you call me." Detective Park stood. She handed Evelyn a business card. Her personal cell number was written on the back. "Don't go home yet. Stay here another night. I'll check in tomorrow." She left. The kitchen felt smaller. Evelyn looked at Karen and Marcus. "We're not staying quiet." Karen's eyes widened. "Evelyn," the detective said. "I know what she said. But Daniel didn't stay quiet. And I'm not going to either." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "What do you want to do?" "I want to talk to Coach Briggs." Karen shook her head. "That's insane." "Maybe, but he's the center of this. And I want him to know we're not backing down. He'll threaten you. Let him." Pastor Hal came into the kitchen. She'd been listening. "If you're going to confront him, do it in public. Somewhere with witnesses," Evelyn thought. "The high school. There's a donor event tomorrow night. For the scholarship fund." Pastor Hal nodded. "He'll be there. So will half the town." "Perfect." That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She lay on the cot and stared at the ceiling. The fellowship hall was dark. She thought about Daniel, about the fear he must have felt, about the secrets he'd carried alone. Her phone buzzed. Another text. Same unknown number. "Last warning." She didn't respond. She turned off her phone. The next day moved slowly. Evelyn borrowed clothes from the church donation bin. A simple blouse and slacks. Nothing fancy. Karen did the same. Marcus stayed in the fellowship hall. Pastor Hal promised to keep him safe. At 6 o'clock, Evelyn and Karen drove to the high school. The parking lot was full. Cars lined the street. Inside, the cafeteria had been transformed. Long tables, white tablecloths, a banner that read, "Supporting Our Future Champions." Coach Briggs stood at the center of the room, surrounded by parents and boosters. He wore a blue blazer with the school logo. His smile was wide, his handshake firm. Evelyn walked toward him. The crowd parted. Coach Briggs saw her. His smile flickered. "Evelyn Carter, I didn't expect to see you here." "I'm sure you didn't." His voice dropped. "If you're here to cause a scene, I'd advise against it. I'm here to ask you a question." "Not tonight?" "Yes, tonight." The room went quiet. People stopped talking. They turned to watch. Evelyn's voice was steady. "How much money did you steal from the scholarship fund?" Coach Briggs's face went red. "Excuse me? You heard me. How much?" "I don't know what you're talking about." Evelyn pulled a folded paper from her purse. "One of the ledger copies." She held it up. "These are your signatures on checks written to fake recipients, addresses that don't exist, students who never enrolled." Coach Briggs stepped forward. His voice was low and dangerous. "Put that away." "Why? Afraid people will see the truth?" Victor Shaw appeared at Coach Briggs's side. His voice was calm. "Mrs. Carter, you're making serious accusations without proof." "I have proof. My son found it. And now the police have it too." The room erupted. Whispers. Gasps. Phones came out. Coach Briggs pointed at the door. "Get out!" Evelyn didn't move. "Daniel Carter was murdered because he discovered what you were doing. And you had Victor Shaw help you cover it up." Victor Shaw's face went cold. "You're slandering us. I could have you arrested." "Go ahead. I'm sure Detective Park would love to hear your side of the story." Coach Briggs grabbed Evelyn's arm. His grip was tight. "I said get out!" A voice cut through the room. "Let her go." Everyone turned. Detective Park stood in the doorway. 2 state troopers flanked her. Coach Briggs released Evelyn's arm. He stepped back. Detective Park walked forward. She looked at Coach Briggs. "Ronald Briggs, you're under investigation for embezzlement and obstruction of justice. We'll need you to come to the station for questioning." Coach Briggs's face went white. "This is ridiculous. We have financial records, audio recordings, and witness testimony. You can cooperate now, or we can do this the hard way." Victor Shaw turned to leave. One of the troopers blocked his path. "You too, Mr. Shaw." The room exploded. Cameras flashed. Parents shouted. Coach Briggs's wife stood frozen by the refreshment table. Detective Park led Coach Briggs and Victor Shaw out of the cafeteria. The crowd followed. Evelyn stood in the center of the empty room. Her hands shook. Karen rushed to her side. "You did it," Evelyn's voice cracked. "Daniel did it. I just finished it." They walked out together. The parking lot was chaos. News vans, police cars, flashing lights. Pastor Hal's car pulled up. Marcus sat in the passenger seat. He rolled down the window. "Is it over?" Evelyn looked back at the high school, at the lights, at the crowd. "It's just starting." Chapter 6. The Wife Who Knew. 3 days after the donor event, Evelyn sat in her kitchen. The house felt strange, empty but full of noise. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Outside, a reporter knocked on the door for the 5th time that morning. She didn't answer. Her phone rang. "Detective Park. Mrs. Carter. We've formally charged Coach Briggs with embezzlement and fraud. Victor Shaw's been charged as an accessory. But we've hit a wall on the murder investigation." Evelyn's stomach tightened. "What wall?" Daniel's death was ruled accidental. Car crash. No witnesses. The only way to reopen it is if we find concrete evidence of foul play. The USB wasn't enough? The USB proves fraud. It doesn't prove murder. We need something that ties Briggs or Shaw directly to Daniel's death. Evelyn closed her eyes. "So he gets away with it. Not if we keep digging. But I need your help. Did Daniel ever mention feeling threatened? Did he keep a journal? Any emails or texts? I don't know. I'll look. She hung up. The reporter knocked again. Evelyn went to the window. She recognized her. Young woman. Local paper. Evelyn opened the door. I'm not talking to press. The reporter held up her hands. I'm not here for a quote. I'm here because I think I can help. Evelyn frowned. How? My name's Amy Ross. I've been investigating Coach Briggs for 2 years. Ever since my little brother didn't get a scholarship he was promised. The money just disappeared. Evelyn stepped back. Come in. Amy entered. She sat at the kitchen table. She pulled out a notebook. I've been tracking the scholarship fund discrepancies for months, but I could never get anyone to go on record. Everyone was too scared. Briggs has too much power in this town. Not anymore. Maybe. But here's what I know. 3 years ago, a student named Jeremy Walsh filed a complaint. He said Coach Briggs offered him scholarship money in exchange for keeping quiet about a teammate's injury. Jeremy refused. 2 weeks later, Jeremy was found in his car at the bottom of Miller's Quarry. Ruled a suicide. Evelyn's blood went cold. You think Briggs killed him? I think Briggs knows how to make problems disappear. Evelyn stood. She walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet. Normal. Like nothing had happened. Did Daniel know about Jeremy Walsh? I don't know. But if he did, he might have started connecting the same dots I did. Evelyn turned. Where's Jeremy's family now? His mother lives in Cleveland. I talked to her once. She didn't believe it was suicide either, but she had no proof. And the sheriff closed the case. Can you get me her number? Amy wrote it on a scrap of paper. She handed it to Evelyn. Be careful. If Jeremy's death is connected, then you're dealing with someone who's killed before. Amy left. Evelyn sat at the table. She stared at the phone number. Then she dialed. A woman answered. Hello? Mrs. Walsh? My name is Evelyn Carter. My son Daniel died 6 months ago. I think his death might be connected to your son Jeremy's. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Who told you about Jeremy? A reporter. Amy Ross, I can't talk about this. Please. My son left evidence about Coach Briggs, about the scholarship fund. I think Jeremy knew the same things. Mrs. Walsh's voice broke. Jeremy kept a notebook. He wrote everything down. Dates, conversations, money transfers. He showed it to me a week before he died. He said if anything happened to him, I should give it to the police. Did you? I tried. The sheriff said it was just the ramblings of a troubled kid. He wouldn't take it seriously. Evelyn's pulse jumped. Do you still have the notebook? Yes. Can I see it? Mrs. Walsh hesitated. Why should I trust you? Because I lost my son, too. And I'm not letting them get away with it. A long pause. Then Mrs. Walsh gave her an address. Evelyn drove to Cleveland. It took 2 hours. Mrs. Walsh lived in a small house near the highway. She answered the door in a faded sweatshirt. Her eyes were red. Come in. The house smelled like coffee and old sadness. Mrs. Walsh led Evelyn to the dining room. She pulled a notebook from a drawer. Blue cover. Wire binding. Pages filled with tight handwriting. This is Jeremy's. Evelyn opened it. The first page had a date. 3 years ago. The entry read, Coach Briggs offered me $2,000 to stay quiet about Tyler's concussion. He said if I told anyone, I'd lose my scholarship recommendation. I said no. He said I'd regret it. Evelyn's hands shook. She turned the pages. More entries, more threats. And then, 2 pages from the end, I saw Coach Briggs meet with Mr. Shaw at the diner. They were arguing about money. Coach said the fund was running dry. Shaw said they needed to stop before someone noticed. Coach said he'd handle it. Shaw left cash on the table. The last entry was dated the day before Jeremy died. I'm going to the state board. I have copies of everything. If something happens to me, check the concession stand storage room. I hid duplicates there. Evelyn looked up. Did anyone check the storage room? Mrs. Walsh shook her head. The school cleaned it out the summer after Jeremy died. Everything was thrown away. Evelyn closed the notebook. Can I take this to Detective Park? Will it help? I don't know, but it's more than we had before. Mrs. Walsh handed her the notebook. Bring them down. For Jeremy. Evelyn drove back to town. She went straight to the police station. Detective Park was at her desk. Evelyn placed the notebook in front of her. "Read this." Detective Park opened it. Her face went still. She read in silence. When she finished, she looked up. "This changes things. Can you reopen Jeremy Walsh's case? I'll have to talk to Cleveland PD. But yes, this is enough for a second look." Evelyn's phone buzzed. A text from Karen. "Come to the house. Now. Something's wrong." Evelyn's chest tightened. "I have to go." She drove fast. Karen's house was 10 minutes away. The front door was open. Karen stood on the porch. Her face was pale. "What happened?" Karen pointed inside. The living room was destroyed. Couch cushions slashed. Drawers dumped. Papers everywhere. "When did this happen?" "I don't know. I was at work. I came home and found it like this." Evelyn stepped inside. She walked through the rooms. Every drawer opened. Every closet searched. She stopped in Daniel's old room. The closet door hung open. Boxes overturned. They were looking for something. Karen's voice shook. "What if they come back?" Evelyn pulled out her phone. She called Detective Park. "They just hit Karen's house, tore it apart. I'm sending a unit now. Get out of there." Evelyn hung up. She grabbed Karen's arm. "Let's go." They left. Evelyn drove to the church. Pastor Hal met them at the door. She took one look at their faces and pulled them inside. "What happened?" "Someone broke into Karen's house." Pastor Hal's jaw tightened. "This is escalating." "I know." Marcus appeared in the hallway. He wore the Varsity Jacket. "Are you okay?" Karen nodded. "Scared, but okay." Evelyn sat down in the fellowship hall. Her mind raced. They'd charged Coach Briggs. They'd exposed the fraud. But someone was still out there, still desperate. Her phone rang. Detective Park. "Mrs. Carter. We just got a tip. Coach Briggs made bail 2 hours ago." Evelyn's blood went cold. "He's out?" "His lawyer posted bond. He's under house arrest. But I wanted you to know. Do you think he's behind the break-in?" "I don't know, but I'm putting a patrol car outside the church tonight." Detective Park hung up. Evelyn looked at Karen and Marcus. "Briggs is out." Marcus's face went hard. "So what do we do?" Evelyn stood. "We finish this." Chapter 7. The Confession. The next morning, Evelyn sat at Pastor Hal's desk. She stared at Jeremy Walsh's notebook. The words blurred. She thought about Daniel, about Jeremy, about how many others might have been silenced. Karen knocked on the door. "Can I come in?" "Yeah." Karen sat down. She looked exhausted. Dark circles. Hair unwashed. "I need to tell you something." Evelyn set down the notebook. "What?" Karen's voice shook. "I lied. About the jacket." Evelyn went still. "What do you mean?" "After Daniel died, Mary Jo came over. She said it would be easier if we cleared out his things quickly. She said holding on to his stuff would make the grief worse. I believed her. But there was one thing I didn't give her." "What?" Karen reached into her bag. She pulled out a USB drive. Different from the one in the storage unit. Smaller. Older. "I found this in Daniel's desk drawer. A week after the funeral. I was scared to look at it. So I hid it." Evelyn's pulse jumped. "What's on it?" "I don't know. I never opened it." "Why are you telling me now?" Karen's eyes filled. "Because I'm tired of being scared. And because you're right, we need to finish this." Evelyn took the USB. She plugged it into Pastor Hal's computer. The screen loaded. One folder. Inside were 3 video files. She clicked the first one. Daniel's face appeared. He sat in his car. The timestamp read 3 weeks before his death. Daniel's voice was steady. "This is a backup. In case something happens to the main drive, I'm documenting everything I know about Coach Ronald Briggs and Victor Shaw. For 2 years, they've been embezzling money from the high school scholarship fund. I have proof, ledgers, checks, and recordings of their conversations." He held up his phone. "I recorded Coach Briggs last week. He admitted to paying students to stay quiet about injuries. He admitted to faking scholarship awards. And he admitted to threatening anyone who questioned him." Daniel's face hardened. "But there's something else. Something worse. 3 years ago, a student named Jeremy Walsh was going to report Briggs. Jeremy died 2 weeks later. It was ruled a suicide. But I don't think it was. I think Briggs killed him. or had him killed. The video cut off. Evelyn's hands shook. She clicked the second file. Daniel again. Same car. Different timestamp. 2 weeks before his death. I talked to Marcus today. He's my half-brother. My dad had an affair 20 years ago. Marcus's mom died last year. He's been homeless ever since. When I found out, I started helping him. But then I realized something. Marcus looks like Jeremy Walsh. Same build. Same age. Same vulnerability. Daniel's voice cracked. I think Briggs targets kids like them. Kids with no one to protect them. Kids who won't be missed? The video ended. Evelyn felt sick. She clicked the third file. Daniel's face was pale. Scared. The timestamp was the day before he died. If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. Briggs knows I have evidence. He cornered me in the parking lot yesterday. He said if I didn't destroy the files and leave town, he'd make sure I regretted it. I told him I wasn't scared. But I am. I'm terrified. Daniel's voice steadied. I'm giving the main drive to Detective Park tomorrow. I'm hiding a backup in my storage unit, and I'm leaving a clue with Marcus. If something happens to me, he'll find my mom, and she'll know what to do. He leaned forward. His eyes filled. Mom, if you're seeing this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about Marcus. I'm sorry I put you in danger, but I couldn't let them keep hurting people. I love you. The video ended. The screen went black. Evelyn sat frozen. Tears streamed down her face. Karen sobbed beside her. Pastor Hal stood in the doorway. She'd been watching. That's evidence of premeditation. Evelyn wiped her eyes. We need to take this to Detective Park. Now. They drove to the station. Detective Park was in a meeting. They waited. 10 minutes later, she came out. Mrs. Carter, what's wrong? Evelyn handed her the USB. Watch this. They went into Detective Park's office. She plugged in the drive. She watched all 3 videos in silence. When they ended, she leaned back in her chair. This is enough. I'm reopening Daniel's death investigation as a homicide. Evelyn's voice shook. Can you arrest Briggs? I can bring him in for questioning. But I need more than a video. I need physical evidence. Something that ties him to Daniel's car crash. What about Jeremy Walsh? Cleveland PD is reviewing his case. But it's been 3 years. Evidence is hard to find. Karen leaned forward. What if there's a witness? Someone who saw something but was too scared to come forward. Detective Park nodded. That's possible. I'll start re-interviewing people who were at the scene of Daniel's crash. They left the station. Evelyn felt lighter and heavier. The truth was coming, but it wouldn't bring Daniel back. That afternoon, Mary Jo called. Evelyn, we need to talk. I'm listening. Not on the phone. Meet me at the diner. In an hour. Evelyn hung up. She looked at Karen. Mary Jo wants to meet. Do you think it's safe? I don't care. They drove to the diner. Mary Jo sat in a corner booth. She looked small, nervous. Evelyn slid into the seat across from her. Karen sat beside Evelyn. Mary Jo's voice was shaky. I'm sorry. For what? For taking Daniel's things. For donating the jacket. Victor Shaw called me after the funeral. He said it would help you move on. He said it was the kind thing to do. I believed him. Evelyn's voice was cold. Did he pay you? Mary Jo's face crumpled. He paid for my car repair, and he got my husband a referral for a job. I didn't think it was wrong. I thought I was helping. You helped them destroy evidence. I know. I'm sorry. Karen's voice was sharp. Do you know anything else? About Briggs? About Daniel? Mary Jo nodded slowly. I saw them once. Briggs and Shaw. At the bank. A week before Daniel died? They were arguing. Briggs was yelling about someone asking too many questions. Shaw told him to calm down. Briggs said he'd take care of it. Evelyn's pulse spiked. Did you tell anyone? No. I thought it was just business. I didn't think. Her voice trailed off. Evelyn stood. You need to tell Detective Park. Today. Will I get in trouble? I don't care. Evelyn left. Karen followed. They drove back to the church. Marcus was in the fellowship hall. He sat on his cot. The varsity jacket folded beside him. What's happening? Evelyn sat down. We're close. Detective Park is reopening the case. Mary Jo's going to give a statement. And we have Daniel's videos. Marcus's voice was quiet. Do you think they'll arrest Briggs? I hope so. And then what? Evelyn looked at him. Then you get to be safe, and you get to be family. Marcus's eyes filled. He nodded. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. That night, Detective Park called. Mrs. Carter, we've got movement. Mary Jo gave her statement. And I've got a warrant to search Coach Briggs's property. We're executing it tomorrow morning. Evelyn's heart raced. Can I be there? No. But I'll call you as soon as we find something. She hung up. Evelyn lay on her cot. She stared at the ceiling. She thought about Daniel, about the last time she'd seen him. He'd hugged her. He'd said he loved her. He'd said everything would be okay. She'd believed him. Tomorrow, she'd know if he was right. Chapter 8. The search warrant. The call came at 9 a.m. Detective Park's voice was tight. We're at Briggs's house. You need to see this. Evelyn drove fast. Karen sat beside her. Marcus stayed at the church with Pastor Hal. The neighborhood was quiet. Big houses, manicured lawns. Police cars lined the street. Detective Park met them at the curb. He's not here. His ankle monitor shows he left at 6 a.m. Violation of house arrest. We've issued a warrant. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Where did he go? We don't know. But we found something in his garage. They walked up the driveway. The garage door was open. Inside, state troopers photographed evidence. Tools, boxes, and a workbench covered with papers. Detective Park pointed to a metal toolbox. We found a burner phone. Texts between Briggs and an unknown number. They talk about the Carter problem and making it look natural. Evelyn's knees buckled. Karen caught her arm. There's more. Detective Park opened a folder. Inside were photos. Daniel's car. After the crash. Close-ups of the brake line. Cut clean. Evelyn's voice broke. It wasn't an accident. No, it wasn't. Karen's hand covered her mouth. She turned away. Evelyn stared at the photos. Her son's car. Sabotaged. Murdered. Where's the phone now? She asked. Evidence. We're pulling the full records. But it's enough to charge Briggs with murder. And Victor Shaw? We're bringing him in for questioning. The texts mention a lawyer. We think it's him. Evelyn looked around the garage. Trophies on the shelves. Photos of championship teams. A lifetime of glory built on lies. How do we find Briggs? We're tracking his phone. And we've got units watching his usual spots. He can't run far. They left. Evelyn sat in her car. She couldn't drive. Karen took the keys. Let's go back to the church. They drove in silence. Pastor Hal met them at the door. She took one look at Evelyn's face and pulled her inside. Marcus stood in the hallway. Did they find something? Evelyn nodded. She couldn't speak. Karen told him. Marcus sat down hard. So Daniel was murdered. Because of me. Evelyn's voice was sharp. No, because of Briggs. This isn't your fault. But if Daniel hadn't helped me, then Briggs would have kept hurting people. Daniel chose to stand up. That's on Briggs, not you. Marcus wiped his eyes. The varsity jacket sat on the chair beside him. He picked it up. He held it like a shield. I wish I could have known him longer. Me too. That afternoon, the news broke. Local station. Then national. Coach Ronald Briggs wanted for murder. Victor Shaw in custody. The scholarship fund scandal grew. Parents called for investigations. Students spoke up. The high school principal resigned. Evelyn watched it all from the church. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Reporters. Old friends. People she hadn't talked to in years. She didn't answer. At 6 p.m., Detective Park called again. We found him. Where? Miller's Quarry. Same place Jeremy Walsh died. He was standing at the edge. Troopers talked him down. Evelyn closed her eyes. Is he in custody? Yes. He's not talking. But we have enough to charge him with Daniel's murder and Jeremy's. The evidence is solid. What about Shaw? He's cooperating. Gave up everything. Briggs paid him to file fake probate claims and destroy documents. Shaw didn't know about the murders, but he knew about the fraud. Evelyn's voice was cold. He knew enough. Yes, he's facing charges, too. Detective Park paused. There's something else. Briggs had a notebook in his car. It lists names. Students he threatened over the years. There are 12 names. Evelyn's stomach turned. 12? Yeah. We're contacting the families now. But Mrs. Carter, you stopped him. If you hadn't pushed, he'd still be out there. The call ended. Evelyn sat in the fellowship hall. Karen sat beside her. Marcus stood by the window. It's over, Karen said quietly. Not yet. What else is there? The trial. The truth coming out. Justice. Marcus turned. Will he go to prison? Yes. For how long? Long enough. That night, Evelyn lay on her cot. She couldn't sleep. She thought about Daniel's last video. His face, his voice, his fear. She thought about Jeremy Walsh, about the 12 names, about how many lives Briggs had destroyed. And she thought about Marcus, a kid with no family, no home, no safety, until Daniel found him. Her phone buzzed. A text from Detective Park. Briggs confessed to everything. Evelyn closed her eyes. She let the tears come. For Daniel, for Jeremy, for all of them, but also for the ending. For the truth, for the justice that Daniel had died trying to find. She fell asleep holding her phone. The fellowship hall was quiet. Outside, the patrol car circled. Inside, 3 people who'd been strangers a week ago slept like family. Tomorrow, the healing would start. Tonight, the fight was finally over. Chapter 9. The Courtroom. 6 weeks later, Evelyn sat in the county courthouse. The room smelled like old wood and nervous sweat. Karen sat beside her. Marcus sat on her other side. He wore a button-up shirt borrowed from the church donation bin. The Varsity Jacket stayed at home. The gallery was packed. Parents, students, reporters. Mrs. Walsh sat 3 rows back. Amy Ross sat in the press section with her notebook. Coach Ronald Briggs entered in an orange jumpsuit. Shackled. Thin. His lawyer walked beside him. Victor Shaw sat at a separate table. His suit was wrinkled. His face was gray. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The bailiff called the court to order. The prosecutor was a woman in her 50s. Sharp voice. Sharper eyes. She stood and addressed the jury. Good morning. Over the next few days, you're going to hear evidence of a conspiracy that lasted 15 years. A conspiracy to steal money from a high school scholarship fund, to threaten students, to destroy evidence, and to murder 2 young men who tried to expose the truth. She paused. The room was silent. Daniel Carter and Jeremy Walsh were killed because they refused to stay quiet. Today, we're here to make sure their voices are finally heard. The trial began. Witness after witness took the stand. Detective Park testified about the storage unit, the USB drives, the burner phone, the cut brake line. Mrs. Walsh testified about Jeremy's notebook, about the threats he'd received, about the day he died. Amy Ross testified about her investigation, about the missing scholarship money, about the students who'd been intimidated into silence. Mary Jo testified about Victor Shaw's phone call, about the pressure to clean out Daniel's things. She cried on the stand. The judge handed her a tissue. Karen testified about Daniel's fear in his final weeks, about the way he checked the locks, about the insurance policy that had been canceled without his knowledge. Marcus testified last. He wore the borrowed shirt. His voice shook at first. Then it steadied. Daniel saved my life. He gave me food, shelter, hope. And when he found out I was his brother, he didn't turn away. He protected me. He said family takes care of family. And then someone killed him for it. The courtroom was silent. The jury watched Marcus. Some had tears in their eyes. The defense tried to poke holes. Briggs's lawyer argued that the evidence was circumstantial, that the brake line could have failed naturally, that the texts were taken out of context. But the prosecutor played Daniel's videos, all 3 of them. The jury watched Daniel's face. They heard his voice. They saw his fear. And then the prosecutor played the recordings Daniel had made. Coach Briggs's voice filled the courtroom. If you don't shut up about this, you'll regret it. People have accidents all the time. The jury flinched. Briggs's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. The closing arguments came on the 4th day. The prosecutor stood. Daniel Carter knew he was in danger. He documented everything. He prepared for the worst. And the worst happened. Because Ronald Briggs is a man who eliminates problems. Jeremy Walsh was a problem. Daniel Carter was a problem. And how many others are out there? How many kids were scared into silence? She pointed at Briggs. He's not a coach. He's not a hero. He's a murderer. And it's time to hold him accountable. The defense argued. Reasonable doubt. Lack of physical evidence. Circumstantial case. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Evelyn waited in the hallway. Karen paced. Marcus sat on the bench and stared at the floor. At 4:30, the bailiff called them back. The jury had reached a verdict. Everyone stood. The judge entered. The jury filed in. None of them looked at Briggs. The foreperson stood. We, the jury, find the defendant, Ronald Briggs, guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Daniel Carter. The courtroom erupted. Evelyn's knees gave out. Karen caught her. Marcus buried his face in his hands. The judge banged the gavel. Order. The foreperson continued. We also find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Jeremy Walsh. Mrs. Walsh sobbed. Amy Ross wrote furiously. The judge looked at Briggs. Mr. Briggs, you've been found guilty on both counts. Sentencing will be scheduled in 30 days. Bailiff, remand the defendant. Briggs stood. He looked at Evelyn. His face was empty. No remorse. No fear. Nothing. The bailiff led him out. Victor Shaw's case was next. He pled guilty to accessory after the fact and fraud. The judge gave him 5 years. Shaw looked at Evelyn as they led him away. I didn't know. About the murders. Evelyn didn't respond. She didn't care. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Evelyn pushed through. Karen and Marcus followed. Detective Park met them on the steps. You did it. Evelyn's voice was flat. Daniel did it. He started it. You finished it. They drove back to town. The church parking lot was full. Pastor Hal had organized a gathering. Food, coffee, people who'd supported them through the trial. Evelyn walked into the fellowship hall. The room erupted in applause. She stopped. She wasn't ready for this. Pastor Hal stepped forward. She hugged Evelyn. You gave this town its conscience back. I just wanted the truth. And you got it. The gathering lasted 2 hours. People shared stories. Parents thanked her. Students shook her hand. Marcus stood in the corner, quiet, overwhelmed. A woman approached him. She was in her 40s. Kind eyes. My son knew Daniel. He said Daniel was the only adult who listened. Thank you for helping him finish what he started. Marcus nodded. He didn't know what to say. As the crowd thinned, Evelyn found a quiet corner. She sat in a folding chair, exhausted, relieved. Empty. Karen sat beside her. What happens now? I don't know. Do you feel better? Evelyn thought about it. No. Daniel's still gone. But at least people know the truth. That's something. Yeah, it is. Marcus joined them. He sat on the floor. The borrowed shirt was wrinkled. He looked older than 17. I've been thinking, he said, about what's next. For me. Evelyn looked at him. What do you want? I want to finish high school, get my diploma, maybe go to college. That's a good plan. But I don't have anywhere to live. Evelyn's throat tightened. She'd been avoiding this question. She wasn't ready to be a parent again. She was 68, tired, grieving. But Daniel's voice echoed in her head. Family takes care of family. She looked at Marcus. You can stay with me until you figure things out. Marcus's eyes filled. Are you sure? No, but Daniel would want it. So yes. Karen smiled. He'd be proud of you. Both of you. Pastor Hal walked over. She handed Evelyn a folded piece of paper. This came for you. Just now. Evelyn unfolded it. A check from the school district. Restitution from the scholarship fund. Made out to the Daniel Carter Memorial Scholarship. Evelyn's hands shook. What is this? Pastor Hal smiled. The school board voted to create a scholarship in Daniel's name for students who stand up for what's right. The first recipient will be announced next month. Evelyn stared at the check. Tears blurred the numbers. Karen put her arm around her. Marcus stood. He walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting. Orange lights spilled across the parking lot. He turned back. Daniel would have liked that. Evelyn nodded. Yeah, he would have. The room was quiet now. Most people had left. Pastor Hal cleaned up. Karen helped. Evelyn sat alone. She thought about Daniel, about the jacket, about the impossible journey from grief to justice. She thought about the 12 names, The students Briggs had hurt, the families that were finally getting answers. And she thought about tomorrow, about Marcus moving into Daniel's old room, about learning to be a family again. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't erase the pain. But it was something. And sometimes, something is enough. Chapter 10. The Jacket Comes Home. 3 months later, Evelyn stood in her kitchen. The coffee pot gurgled. Outside, frost covered the grass. Winter had come early. Marcus sat at the table. He was doing homework. His backpack leaned against the chair. He'd started at the high school in September. He was catching up. Slowly, carefully. Karen had moved to a smaller apartment. Less expensive. She visited twice a week. Brought groceries. Helped with bills. They'd found a rhythm. Evelyn poured 2 cups of coffee. She set one in front of Marcus. Thanks. He didn't look up. He was focused. Determined. Like Daniel. Evelyn's phone buzzed. Detective Park. Mrs. Carter. I wanted to let you know. Briggs got life without parole. Sentencing was this morning. Evelyn closed her eyes. Good. Shaw's already started serving his 5 years, and the state's investigating every scholarship case from the last 15 years. They've found 8 more families that were defrauded. Will they get restitution? Yes. It'll take time, but yes. Thank you for everything. You did the hard part. I just followed the evidence. The call ended. Evelyn sat down across from Marcus. That was Detective Park. Briggs got life. Marcus nodded slowly. He set down his pencil. I don't feel different. You're not supposed to. Justice doesn't fix grief. Then what does it do? Evelyn thought about it. It stops the bleeding, so healing can start. Marcus picked up his coffee. He stared into the cup. I still think about him. Every day. Me too. Does it get easier? No. But you get stronger. Marcus smiled faintly. Daniel used to say that. In the shelter. When kids would give up. He was smart. Yeah, he was. That afternoon, Evelyn and Marcus drove to the high school. They'd been invited to speak at an assembly. About courage. About standing up. About Daniel. The auditorium was packed. Students filled the seats. Teachers lined the walls. The principal introduced them. Evelyn walked to the microphone. She looked at the faces. Young, hopeful, uncertain. My son Daniel believed that one person could make a difference. He believed that speaking up mattered, even when it was dangerous, even when it cost him everything. She paused. The room was silent. He left behind evidence that exposed corruption. He protected a kid who needed help, and he trusted that if something happened to him, the truth would still come out. She looked at Marcus, and it did, because he wasn't alone. None of us are. Marcus stood. He walked to the microphone. He wore the varsity jacket. Number 14. Daniel's name stitched inside. I didn't know Daniel long, but he changed my life. He gave me food, shelter, a family. And when powerful people tried to silence him, he didn't back down. He fought, and he won. Marcus's voice cracked. I'm wearing his jacket today because he wanted me to. He said it was proof that I belonged, that I mattered, and that someone loved me enough to risk everything. The auditorium erupted in applause. Students stood. Teachers clapped. Evelyn wiped her eyes. After the assembly, students came up to them. They asked questions. They shared stories. They thanked them. One girl, maybe 16, approached Marcus. My older brother was on Coach Briggs's team. He quit because Briggs threatened him. He never told anyone why, until your story came out. Now he's finally talking about it. Thank you. Marcus nodded. I'm glad he's talking. They drove home. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and purple, beautiful and sad. Evelyn pulled into the driveway. Marcus got out. He stood in the yard. He looked at the house. It's weird. What is? Having a place to come home to. Evelyn walked toward the door. Get used to it. Inside, the house smelled like dinner. Pastor Hal had dropped off a casserole. They heated it up. Ate in silence. Comfortable silence. After dinner, Marcus went to his room. Daniel's old room. He'd cleaned it. Painted it. Made it his own. But the varsity jacket hung on the back of the door. Evelyn sat in the living room. The TV was off. She stared at the wall. Photos of Daniel. Childhood. high school, graduation. She thought about the jacket, about how a simple piece of clothing had unraveled everything, about how Daniel had known that the jacket would lead her to Marcus, that Marcus would lead her to the truth. Her phone buzzed. A text from Amy Ross. Article published. Front page. Thank you for trusting me with the story. Evelyn clicked the link. The headline read, How a Mother's Love Brought Down a Killer. She read it. Amy had captured everything. The evidence, the trial, the justice. And at the end, a quote from Evelyn. Grief changes shape, but it doesn't disappear. The best we can do is honor the people we've lost by finishing what they started. Evelyn closed the phone. She walked to the window. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. The neighborhood was quiet. She thought about Daniel's last video, his voice, his fear, his love. And she thought about Marcus. Upstairs, safe, healing. Family takes care of family. That's what Daniel had said. And that's what she would do. This story reminds us that grief can become a force for justice, and love can survive even death. Sometimes the hardest choice is to keep going when everything tells you to stop. But that's when courage matters most. What would you have done if you found that jacket? Would you have fought, or would you have let the past stay buried? Thank you for listening to this story. Take gentle care of yourself today. And remember, one person can make a difference, even when the cost is high, especially then.